Alright, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel, and it's finally official. GeForce releases the new 2080 Ti series, so it's not the 1180, it's nothing like that, it's the 20 series, so they just kind of skipped a whole lot of the 10 series. But that's okay, I guess it makes it sound better. I don't know why they do that. Either way, it is the GeForce RTX now, which I absolutely hate. I really like GTX, RTX. I don't know, it doesn't roll off the tongue as well. Either way, it is released now, and the Founders Edition is $1,200. $1,200 when the MSRP of the 1080 Ti was like $700. So this is crazy how expensive they are. So they're really milking it good after they realized how expensive GPUs would get. After mining kicks in. Well, mining is down right now, and most of the prices of GPUs have fallen back to their original levels, or even sometimes below the MSRP levels. Now, we have an even bigger problem, in that these are $1,200 a piece, and now they will never be less than $1,200, because nobody's going to want to sell them for less than what they bought. Of course, if it's secondhand, sure, it could go for a little bit less, but if the mining craze kicks back in, since a GTX 1080 Ti was $1,300 some dollars at its height, maybe even $1,400, you might have even seen them higher. I could expect these to easily get $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 a piece if Bitcoin or something like that went back to 20,000 and the altcoins went back up. But there's also a problem with that, in the sense that mining is kind of a dead dream, in a sense, for the average person. And I really hate to say that. So my recommendations anymore is don't go out and buy a bunch of GPUs to mine anymore. It was good last year, about middle of last year, even before that, of course. But it really died off in December when the price went way down. And I don't think it will ever really recover because the difficulty is so high now. There are so many miners now. It's just never going to be the same, and we sort of have to realize that going out and buying a bunch of GTX or 1080 Ti's or 2080 Ti's is not really going to help you anymore. And the ROI of them is going to be well over a year and a half or 2 years just to get your money back. And that's not even counting the electricity. That's just what it makes per day. So if you count the electricity, probably 2 years till you get your money back for one of these. And it may die before then, or the prices may even go down further. That's just saying if the prices stay relatively similar as they are now, which probably is not going to happen. They'll either go up or they will either go down because 50-50. But let's take a look at this. So it has ray tracing. It's supposedly 6 times faster performance, whatever that means. I mean, that's pretty vague, to be totally honest. And they always say every year that, oh, it's blah, blah, blah faster performance. And of course it is, because it's a new generation graphics card. But what does 6x faster mean? 6x. Why not? Powerful AI, enhanced graphics, whatever that means as well, and ray tracing. Well, this is ray tracing. As you can see, the light, the way that light hits things, and it traces the light from the source and bounces off of things, and that wasn't really the case before. Normally, the light is just rendered right here rather than from the source itself, and now it is. So ray tracing, amazing. So it does look pretty good, to be totally honest. So that looks kind of a little not good. They could probably use a little better visualization there. That's pretty grainy and pretty crappy, to be totally honest. But either way, I'm sure developers are going to have a field day with ray tracing and make some really good looking games and graphics and things like that. So, this is what it looks like. Yeah, it's a graphics card. All right, so this is the Founders Edition. The Founders Editions are always pretty basic looking and silvery, and in this case, it seems to be a side fans rather than an SLI configuration like it was. Normally an SLI configuration doesn't have fans on the side, but rather they're inside, but they shoot the air outside of your computer rather than away from the card. So these probably aren't that great for SLI configuration. There may be other models that they are selling. I know that they have the 2080 Ti and then the Founders Edition, which is a little bit better. But I'll show you why that's a little bit better. So it's not actually that the card itself is better, but rather if you look at the specs, you'll see pretty quick. So I also have the 1080 Ti specs up. And as you can see, the 1080 Ti has 3,584 cores, CUDA cores, and these have 4,352. Now the 2080, the non-Ti, just the 2080, actually has less CUDA cores than the 1080 Ti. Excuse me, a little burpy. You know, God, that Baja Blast. You know what I mean, guys? Come on, get yourself some Baja Blast and get me a check for 8,700. I don't know, whatever. Make it 7,600. Who cares? So that's a little interesting that, you know, the 2080 series has less CUDA cores. However, there are still a lot of other stats that are much different. So the memory speed is just 11 gigabits per second with the 1080 Ti, and even the 2080 also has 14 gigabits per second. So the memory is much faster. It's GDDR6 rather than GDDR5X. So that's much faster. It works on a 352-bit interface. Great. Memory bandwidth is 616 gigabytes a second, and this is just 484. So clearly way faster memory. So that's going to help with Ethereum and Kryptonite. But again, I think mining, going out and buying a bunch of cards for mining anymore is fairly dead, and it's going to be for a while, if not forever, because Ethereum now has ASICs. All these, you know, Zcash has ASICs, EcoHash has ASICs, and you're just not going to be able to keep up with those with any graphics card. It's just not going to happen, even with the modern graphics cards coming out. So as much as I hate to say that, and as much as I hate to sort of FUD in that way, you know, it's just true, plain and simple. So let's take a look at the wattage here. So the maximum GPU temperature, 89, and these ones are 91 for the 1080 Ti. So they were a little bit more hardy, the 1080 Ti, whereas the 2080 Ti is not so much. Now that might be different when there's, you know, some outside manufacturers, some third-party manufacturers creating more fans and better designs, better thermal, you know, radiation. But it's 260 watts now, and the 1080 Ti was 250 watts. So these take a lot of power. 1080 Ti's are kind of a hassle in your computer. One, they're very, very long. So if you don't have very good cable management, you're gonna have a lot of trouble with the 1080 Ti. But it can be done, you know, especially if you have an open rig, whatever, that's fine. But, you know, and PCI extenders. But, you know, 250 watts is a pretty large amount. And yeah, most people typically will undervolt them, underclock them just a little bit. And then that saves a little bit of power, makes them a bit more efficient. But it also takes away a slight amount of hash power as well at the same time. Now, 250 watts, you know, you can, if once you get 5 of them in your computer, that's 1250 watts. And you have to have a big power supply for that, or multiple power supplies to put 6 or 8 of them in your computer. Guarantee you need multiple power supplies. There are some 2,000 watt power supplies, but those are mostly for servers, and some of those don't have 12 volt rails on every rail. So they're not that great to use, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of horror stories. I was actually working with somebody who has 2,000 watt power supplies, and their rigs shut down and restart constantly on them. And I came to the conclusion, it's your Chinese server power supplies. They probably don't have 12 volt rails on every single one. So, you know, you need to stack multiple power supplies. Now, the original one, the 2080 Ti, is 250 watts as well. So a lot of third-party manufacturers will probably all have the 250 watt version, whereas the 260 watt version, see, they upped it by 10 watts, and that's why you get that slightly faster boost clock. You can see overclock, you know, the base clock is still the same, but that boost is a little bit higher, so it can use a little bit more wattage to get up there. Not like you probably couldn't do that with overclocking anyway, but as you can see right out of the gate, it overclocks a little bit faster than the other one. But not too big of a deal. So on Newegg here, as you can see, they are pretty much sold out of stock. 2080 Ti, the GeForce, the Gigabit, this is the MSI one, this is the Gigabyte, also sold out. So these are like mostly all sold out, or they have a release date, like this is the Asus, this is another Gigabyte. So all sold out for the most part. There are probably a few that you could still find, maybe Amazon, also ordering from the GeForce website, the NVIDIA website. You can only order 2 at a time, but that's the way it is. So now I wanted to bring you to this article here. And again, a fairly negative article, unfortunately, but it's really the case. So here's the deal with miners. Let's say you already have a bunch of cards. Let's say you already have this rig. You might as well keep mining with that rig, as long as you can, of course, as long as you can afford that electricity bill. Just like I have graphics cards, and I'm still mining with them. But at the moment, I'm not really concerned with going out and getting a bunch of new graphics cards and putting them into more rigs. The problem is the ROI is so high anymore. And the reason is, one, the price of crypto went down. You might say, well, the price of crypto can go back up and I can start making money again. Yes and no. Two, the difficulty went way up, and it's going to stay up. It always fluctuates. It goes down, it goes up, it goes down. These coins are on fire, bro. To quote a little bit of JR business. But the difficulty is always going to keep rising. It's just going to. So after a while, these GPUs not going to be doing so good. Now, what would the 1080 Ti hash at? Probably not that much faster than the 1080 Ti. If you're getting 600 or so souls for equal hash out of your GTX 1080 Ti, you might get maybe 800 out of a 2080 Ti. That's my guess. I haven't seen the exacts yet. Maybe people have those stats online already, but I don't see it being much higher than that. You're not going to get a gigahash. You're not going to get a gig souls equal hash out of this card. I highly doubt that, unless you super overclocked it and it's just running like a train, like a train with no engineer, just hot. Somebody's just pouring coal into it, and they don't even realize the engineer's not there, and they are screaming down the track. That's the only way, maybe. So, if you're making $1.50 a day on your 1080 Ti now, you might make at best like $2 a day with your 2080 Ti. It's just not really that worth it, considering now you're going to pay $1,200. That was as much as a GTX 1080 Ti Titan. And nobody mined with Titans. Nobody mined with Titans. If you were mining with a Titan, it's either because you already had one for gaming, or you weren't that clever in figuring out efficiency and cost to ROI ratio, whatever. 1080 Ti, the Titans were not good for mining. They hashed a little bit faster. You might get 10, 20 cents a day extra than the 1080 Ti. That's it. So, for $1,200, and if you're only making a couple $100 a day, or a couple dollars a day, you're looking at least 600 days, and that's not even counting the electricity. So if you count in the electricity that's going to use, you're looking at 700-800 days for your ROI just to get your money back for the 2080 Ti. Now, if you're gaming too, okay, that's great. If you bought this for gaming and you're like, you know what, when I'm not gaming, I'm gonna mine on this. Great, all the power to you. But anymore, I cannot recommend anybody going out buying a bunch of graphics cards and starting to mine with them. That era is, unfortunately, as much as it just pains me to say it, it's over, and it might not come back. So in the summer of 2017, rising cryptocurrency prices led to a run on high-performance graphics cards. Coveted cards with a high hash rate were snapped up like proverbial hotcakes, leaving gamers, scientific researchers, and anyone else who relied on flagship GPUs priced out of the cryptocurrency frenzy escalated. So they were just priced out. One year on, the same graphics cards can be acquired for bargain prices. So it was the summer of 2017, and the GeoForce 1070, NVIDIA's second most powerful graphics card. If you're wondering what that was, I just read it verbatim because I thought it was funny. Most powerful graphics card was retailing, the second most was retailing for $450. Although I would say the 1080 was the second most, and the 1080 Ti was the most powerful. But either way, there was one problem: no one could get a hold of one. In PC stores around the world, bare shelves occupied the space. Fry's Electronics, Best Buys, any old mom and pop PC store. You couldn't do it. You couldn't be found. Everybody and their mother's brother were calling all these places, waiting for them to get GPUs and then going in and buying them all. They just couldn't do it. And then those places couldn't restock because they were waiting for the shipments from companies. And then mom and pop stores certainly couldn't restock because they were probably second on the list instead of like Best Buy or Fry's buying like mass amounts of them. So nobody could get them. So that's because of the cryptocurrency mining boom, the likes of which never seen before was in full swing, with crypto miners clearing stores and wholesalers of all the units they could lay their hands on. Thus, why NVIDIA stock went through the roof. And some people were like, oh, it's because of PC gaming. Everybody's getting into PC gaming now. Yeah, I mentioned that, but the problem is like if you're like, hey, I'm gonna PC game and I'm gonna go out and buy me a graphics card, you don't go out and just get a handful of them and throw them in the shopping carts, and then another handful and throw them in the shopping carts, and then buying them all. No, you just buy one. You're like, okay, this is the one I need. Or if you're like have a lot of money, you're like, okay, these are the two I need for SLI. That's it. That's been the way it's been for a long time, and NVIDIA stock never went through the roof. PC gaming has been around for a long time. So is SLI, three-way SLI, four-way SLI, and it still didn't go through the roof. So it's because of cryptocurrency mining. People walking out with handfuls. While computer shops in many countries ran drive desirable GPUs, such as the 1070 and the Radeon, on secondhand marketplaces, they could still be acquired for a premium. From last summer, when cryptomania was at its peak, cards such as the $400 1070 regularly traded hands for $800 or more. The wailing of gamers was drowned out by the whir of cooling fans as miners overdocked their newly acquired GPUs and started crunching numbers in exchange for altcoins. Bitcoin was the only mineable on ASICs by then, and Ethereum was heading that way too, because at the time, they were just creating the ASICs, but now they are actually out, although some of them aren't that great. Some of them are getting pretty good. So that takes away all the GPU mining power of them. But smaller coins such as SIA, Monero, and Zcash, as well as lesser-known microcap coins, were still viable, even though there's now ASICs for Monero, even though Monero kind of technically forked away from that, but there were for a time. SIA, I think, can actually be mined on FPGAs. I think Baikal makes some that can mine SIA. I'm pretty sure. And I know Zcash can because of the EcoHash miners from like the Z9 Mini and the InnoSilicon EcoHash miner. So this is just an example of some mining rigs going for pretty cheap. 6 AMDs, 460s for just $950, 2 AMD R9s, 1 480, 2 570s, and 1 850 Corsair power supply, and 1 750 power supply for $800. So, just a few months ago, this would be like $5,000, basically. That might be a little over-exaggeration, but either way, it would be way, way more. 1 year from the summer of shitcoins, and the value of all leading cryptocurrencies has taken a tumble, while network hash rates have continued to rise. BTC, Ethereum, and all the rest might be worth more than they were a year ago, but their ballooning hash rate has meant that mining on GPUs is scarcely profitable, causing secondary market supply to exceed demand once more. It's now time to the turn of gamers and data researchers and scientists to gloat as they snap up cheap graphics cards by former miners whose dream has died. I never got mining Ethereum personally. I never made too many videos about that, but I never mined Ethereum. It was never particularly profitable. It was never more profitable than mining like EcoHash. If you have AMD cards, it was pretty good. Ethereum was, because of the HBM2 and just slightly faster RAM overall, and just cheaper cards overall. But I never found any reason as an NVIDIA user to mine Ethereum. Every time I would mine it, I would just be like, what is the point of this? I'm getting like half of what I would get if I was just mining EcoHash. There's no point to mining Ethereum. So it was long dead for me anyway, in that sense, at least Ethereum. So a look around Craigslist and Gumtree, two of the leading marketplaces in the UK, show the sort of mining rigs that can now be acquired. Many of those for sale have seen less than 6 months use, suggesting that their original owners may not have turned a profit before offloading them. Because 6 months of mining, again, it's not enough. You need to be mining for a year or 2 years to get your ROI back because cards are so expensive. And difficulty's going way up, profits are going way down. So you have to wait a long time. And that's why I just can't recommend it anymore. Why not just if you have so for example, here in the Bay Area, one seller is offering 16 1080 Ti's for $39.50, which is an incredible deal compared to what it was in like December and January when those 1080 Ti's were about $1,000 a piece. This used to be about $16,000 you would have to pay for this. Maybe a little less, maybe like $14,000 or $13,000. Literally, that's how much they cost, all of those cards. So for about $246 a card now. So you could, if you had $3,950, you could just go out and buy some real cheap Bitcoin right now. You can virtually buy one whole Bitcoin for that price at the moment because prices are so low. you would get just about like 3/4 of a Bitcoin or so, approximately, at the moment. That's an impressive amount of Bitcoin, to be totally honest. The seller professes to have paid over 4,000, but to have made the cost back from mining. In the same area, someone's selling a bunch of 1070s and 1080s at 375 and 425 a piece. I like this picture here. It says, Steven, you need to get rid of that thing. It's costing us $800 a month in electricity. Mom, it's a legitimate business. Full crypto mining rig set up, all ready to go. $3,000 in San Jose. So the first time in a long time, single GPUs are selling secondhand for less than their RRP, showing that the crypto mining boom is over for now. While hash rates like market prices can fall, it's unlikely that conditions will make it profitable to solo mine with a handful of GPUs again. With mining moving to cooler climates with cheaper energy, and from residential spaces to purpose-built farms. The era of amateur mining is almost over. Aside from the reduced profitability of solo mining on GPUs, there's another reason why many sellers seem to have decided to call it a day. There simply isn't room. So, again, I think this is one of the best parts of the article. It's that mining is moving to cooler climates, like Iceland and Georgia, and I think there's a one in Kazakhstan with cheaper energy. China has some of the cheapest energy in the world, and from residential spaces to purpose-built farms. So now, you can't keep up in your house. You can't keep up with your AC running and cooling these GPUs. So now people are building purpose-built farms with GPUs covered in vacuum plastic, and just huge farms that run on residential, like commercial electricity costs. So the era of amateur mining is just about over. You might be still making profit, but if things get any worse or difficulty goes up any more, you're just not gonna be. And sure, I always suggested, you can continue mining as long as you can afford the electricity, and when prices go back up again, then you can sell your crypto, and that's when you're gonna get your profit. But I don't feel it's worth it right now if you don't already have the GPUs to go out and get them. So judging by the reasons cited in many classified ads, the change of circumstances, usually an impending move or a new girlfriend, is often the final straw. Like accepting your band will never make it, and selling your electric guitar, selling your mining rig can be construed as the acknowledgement that the crypto dream is over without having made you rich. I don't know anybody that thought that they were going to get rich. If you were to mine in 2009 and kept all your Bitcoin now, yes, you're rich, but nobody did that. As most sellers will surely aver, though it was a blast, a noisy, hot blast, it was fun while it lasted. So that's all I have for you guys today. I know it's pretty negative, and people were like, hey, make more videos, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to make videos right now because they're going to be pretty negative, because there's not much positive to talk about right now. Of course, there's the great new cards out. It's going to be great for gaming and probably pretty good for mining as well. But at $1,200, you're going to be mining for quite a long time to get your ROI back on these cards. So don't go ham just yet, in my opinion. But it's all up to you, and it's your money. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and as usual, I will see you guys next time.